Teal dear, I think it's about time that once again you oppressive, straight white male shitlords out there checked your goddamn male privilege, courtesy of maleprivilege.tumblr.com. Let's pick up where we left off, shall we? With supposed male privilege 8. On average, I am taught to fear walking alone after dark in average public spaces much less than my female counterparts are. First of all, citation needed. I find it very interesting that you could not provide one example of a case where women are specifically told to fear walking around at night where men are not. This isn't, of course, to say that it doesn't happen, but it's just rather fun that you couldn't actually provide proof of it happening. But all I can say is, goddamn that patriarchy being concerned for the welfare of women. Even though the Violent Victimization Committed by Strangers survey from 1993 to 2010, made by the Bureau of Justice Statistics, found that the rate of violent crime experienced by both men and women has more or less consistently fallen over the years in question, with women statistically being the least likely group to experience violence from a stranger, which presumably would be the reason why you would fear walking alone at night. And then, of course, there's the Criminal Victimization Survey from 2013, also from the BJS, who have found that even though the gap is narrowing over the years, that men are still more likely to be the victims of violence than women, and that this survey not only includes stranger violence, but also people known to the victim, and that these surveys have found that the prevalence of victimization is only about 1 or 2% of the population for various crimes. I've got to wonder, where exactly is this narrative that it's dangerous in this society coming from? Because in this particular instance, we are looking at Murica, whose rates of violent crime is decreasing despite the fact that the population is consistently increasing, which would in fact suggest that per person, the country is in fact becoming safer and safer with every passing year, on average at least. So where is this idea that women need to be scared of everything coming from? I wonder if it has anything to do with the constant narrative that we hear from a lot of feminists and social justice types. You know, the whole, we live in a rape culture where the idea of sexual assault is supposedly normalized and even celebrated, where victims supposedly will not be taken seriously. The constant pushed narrative of things like 1 in 4 women will be raped at college, 1 in 6 women will be the victim of sexual assault, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Maybe there are some people out there who should stop spreading outright lies, because this level of fear-mongering is not helping anyone. Male privilege number 9. If I choose not to have children, my masculinity will not be called into question. Once again, I'm going to have to say citation needed. Show me some examples of women who are having their femininity called into question for not having children. Maybe just a few dozen examples of people saying, you don't have children? You're not a real woman then. But something which I think you should note here is this is not an issue of sexism, nor is it a gendered issue. The National Health Interviews survey from the year 2000 found that on average about 84% of men and 86% of women from the age of 45 years or older had passed on their genes. That is to say that for both men and women, less than 20% of them will not have children. When just under 1 in 5 men and just under 1 in 5 women do not have children, it's fairly normal for people to wonder why, because it is somewhat an abnormality. They may simply not be physically capable of having children, they may have made a moral decision to simply not reproduce, or they may simply have just not found a partner with whom they want to have a child. There is a myriad of reasons why people would choose to not pass on their genes, and given that it is fairly normal for humans to have children, it's not unusual for people to at least be curious as to why some people don't. But this is not an issue of sexism, nor is it a gendered issue. Stop trying to make it one. Of course, if you are one of those people who doesn't have children, the Pope will hate you. I'd also like to point out to you that this is a thing, and this is also a thing. But remember, men are not shamed for not having kids. Male privilege number 10. If I have a child but do not provide primary care for them, my masculinity will not be called into question. Oh boy, where do I begin with this one? I mean, the child doesn't even have to be yours in order for people to start questioning your masculinity in regards to you stepping up to the plate to raise it. But for those men who do have biological children and don't provide for them, it's not like we have a stereotype of the deadbeat dad. Nope, not even a little bit. Never, not even once. Male privilege number 11. If I have children and provide primary care for them, I'll be praised for extraordinary parenting if I'm even marginally competent. And this one has a citation, in which the author of the post admits that this is purely anecdotal nonsense that can in no way be proven. But I'm sure all people watching would like to join me in offering the author of this post a Happy Father's Day, Mum. A sentiment which, combined with the previous point, pretty much sums up society's point of view in which parent is most important, and worthy of praise by default, regardless of actual competence. And hey, do you remember this nonsense?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Have you ever done one of these interviews over the camera before?
No.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about the job to get started with. It's not just a job, it's sort of probably the most important job. The title that we have going right now is Director of Operations, but it's really kind of so much more than that. Responsibilities and requirements are really quite extensive. First category for the requirements would be mobility. This job requires that you must be able to work standing up most or really all of the time, constantly on your feet, constantly bending over, constantly exerting yourself, a high level of stamina.
Okay.
That's a lot.
For how many hours?
135 hours to unlimited hours a week. It's basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I'm sure you'll have a chance from time to time to maybe just sit down here and there, yeah?
You mean like a break?
Yeah.
No, there are no breaks available.
Is that even legal?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like no lunch?
You can have
or-
lunch, but only when the associate is done eating their lunch.
No.
Not possible.
That's crazy.
Now, this position requires excellent negotiation and interpersonal skill. We're really looking for someone that might have a degree in medicine, in finance, and the culinary arts. You must be able to wear several hats. Associate needs constant attention. Sometimes they have to stay up with an associate throughout the night. Being able to work in a chaotic environment, if you had a life, we'd ask you to sort of give that life up. No vacations. In fact, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and holidays, the workload is gonna go up, and we demand that, with a happy disposition.
That's almost cruel. That's almost a very, very sick, twisted joke.
Worried about when there's time to sleep or...
Oh, no time to sleep.
365 days a year?
Yes.
No, that's inhumane.
The meaningful connections that you make and the feeling that you get from really helping your associate are immeasurable. Also, let's cover the salary. The position is gonna pay absolutely nothing.
Excuse me?
No. Nobody's doing that for free.
Yeah,
You're
pro
crazy.
bono, completely for free.
No.
What if I told you there's someone that actually currently holds this position right now? Billions of people, actually.
Who?
Moms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moms.
That's awesome.
Oh.
And they meet every requirement, don't
wow.
Oh my God. Moms are the best.
Yeah, there's no pay. They're 24 hours. They're always there.
Now I'm thinking about my mom.
they? Yeah, and what are you thinking about her?
I'm thinking about all those nights and everything.
Yep, men will receive all of the praise even for only marginal competence, and women will get nothing. Male privilege number 12. If I have children and a career, no one will think I'm selfish for not staying at home. What? People think men are selfish for going out and working hard to provide for their families, do they? Because to me, that sounds kind of like the opposite of being selfish. But if you're a woman and you have children and go out to work, I can pretty much guarantee you that no one is going to call you selfish for doing so. You may be called other things, such as absent, but that is the exact same thing that will happen to a man. Male privilege number 13. If I seek political office, my relationship with my children, or who I hire to take care of them, will probably not be scrutinized by the press. Probably, possibly, maybe, could be. Do you have any specific examples of a female politician who has had her relationship with her children be analyzed by the press, or be brought up in a situation where it is completely improper to do so? And is this something which has happened exclusively to women and never to a man? Needless to say, I think this is a further point of yours where I can quite safely leave it with a nice big citation needed. Also, how would this be a privilege for it to not happen to a man? The default position in politics is for the press to not be involved with the family of the politician in question, especially their children, since the children are a completely innocent party. Once again, we come back to the point which I made from the last video, which is that just because something bad doesn't happen to you, that doesn't mean that it is a privilege. You wouldn't say that someone who hasn't been stabbed in the street has privilege over someone who has, because not being stabbed is the default that we expect in society. Male privilege number 14. My elected representatives are mostly people of my own sex. The more prestigious and powerful the elected position, the more this is true. How exactly is this a privilege? Because in order for this to be a privilege, you have to have the default assumed position that men treat other men better than they treat women. Good luck proving that, because it's not true. Second of all, if you want to change this, more women need to run for office and be elected than men. There is nothing stopping women from being elected to positions of power in society, and it just so happens that more men than women run for positions in office. Therefore, it is not in any way remotely surprising that more men end up in office than women. The only ways that you will change this is to, 1. Encourage more women into politics and hope that they win because they are better than their male competitors. 2. Force political parties to create all-female shortlists. That is, to legally oblige political parties to only permit females to run for office and bar males. This will be done on the basis of genitalia and nothing more. 3. Force the electorate of a country to vote for female candidates and not for male candidates, or indeed any combination of these options. So your choices are basically either allow people to do what they want to do, and some sort of pattern will emerge at the end of it based on people's personal choices and decisions, or go full totalitarian authoritarian mode and force an outcome, despite the personal and free choices of the people. Good luck with that. Male privilege number 15. When I ask to see the person in charge, odds are I will face a person of my own sex. The higher up in the organization the person is, the surer I can be. Once again, how is this a privilege exactly? Because once again, in order for this to be a privilege, you seem to be relying on this default assumption that a man may show preferential treatment to other men instead of women. In reality, it is not the gender of the person that matters. What matters is their level of competence. Because once again, you would hope that the person who got to the higher echelons of that company, or whatever it is that you're dealing with here, would have got there because of merit rather than because of biological sex. This is not a gendered issue, and yet you are attempting to make it one. The likelihood of you being able to converse with someone who shares a similar type of genitalia to you is not a privilege. The only possible way that it could be is if that person happens to be a raging sexist, which seems to be the position of the person writing this post. They seem to have in their twisted little mind this idea that all men show preferential treatment to men for some reason, and they are presenting no actual evidence for this position. Honestly, I'm struggling to get my head around how someone can have such a warped view of the world. Actually, no, I'm not. It's really rather easy. The person who authored this post is a sexist, who has in their mind a certain idea that all men are this way and all women are this way, and that all men are somehow looking out for each other and all women are somehow looking out for each other, and men just happen to somehow be on top because they're constantly all trying to undermine women, somehow. I'm starting to think that in order to continue actually getting through this, I'm going to need to don one of my trusty tinfoil hats. But as it stands for now, that is 15 points down, 31 more to go. Oh joy.